Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's uLaw webinar. In today's webinar subject, we're going to cover the component of document management and how we've simplified the integration of uLawPractice with some commonly available document management cloud-based systems or products in the marketplace. And we're going to talk about the key integration points, how easy it is for you to now manage all of those documents that you generate out of uLaw or other documents outside the sphere of uLaw and bring that into the context of either a file or a client or a matter specifically. Before I get started, I want to reiterate that today's webinar has not been accredited for any CPD credits. So today's webinar is a non-CPD session, but again, like many other non-CPD sessions, we're hoping that it will be a fast-paced webinar where we can actually do a lot of demos and get into the product and really walk you through how this feature works. So predominantly, we're going to talk about the components of document management, some use cases of different documents that you come across day to day, and how you can integrate it. And if time permits, we'll look at both the options of the OneDrive integration as well as the Google Drive integration. And I kindly request everyone who's joined us today, if you're using the audio using your computer, we've found that the audio using the phone system to be a lot more, having a better quality, if you will. So if you kindly dial into the phone numbers provided in the chat window, we'd greatly appreciate that. Like every other webinar, today's uLaw webinar has a specific agenda. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about document management. Specifically, what does that mean with respect to the cloud infrastructure that uLaw is residing in, the infrastructure in terms of cloud-based document management systems that we integrate with, and what that means to your business. Of course, there are some very key players in the marketplace in the industry, including Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, and Box. We've, of course, started this journey of integrating with Google Drive, followed with OneDrive, and we're continuing to catch up integrating with Dropbox and Box, which we're hoping to have that integration soon into the uLaw system. But for today's example, we want to take, again, as I said, time permitting, examples of Google Drive as well as OneDrive. We'll talk about how easy it is to set up uLaw and integrate it with these third-party document management systems, the drag and drop facilities that you now are enabled with, or empowered with rather, for all the documents that you generate within uLaw, respective of types of documents, whether that's PDF, whether that's a Word document, or even if you're scanning a driver's license or a passport for, let's say, a conflict screening, or if you're getting someone's contact information, you can now store that information all within the context of that particular file. So we'll talk about how we do that as well. And last but not least, we'll use the use case of how you can start to scan all the receipts that you're starting to collect as part of your office expenses. Because keep in mind, uLawPractice, apart from being a legal accounting system, practice management system, is also a full-fledged business accounting system. So essentially, it allows you to manage your office expenses. In fact, it allows you to manage disbursements from a client perspective, as well allows you to manage your office expenses from your own office business expenses perspective. Okay, so we'll also talk about a simple example of how you could take a photograph of a receipt and bring that into uLaw as well. Okay, so that would be the quick and fast and easy agenda for today's webinar. Kindly do use the chat window at any given time to ask your questions. I do have my support staff available to answer those questions at any given time. And I'm, again, hoping that you're able to see my screen at this stage. So we're going to talk about some positives or pros of certain cloud-based document management system. What does that mean to you and your business? Why should you consider it? We've spoken about this in our previous webinars where we've covered this, and we continue to iterate that the cloud-based document management system still continues to lead in terms of convenience and cost effectiveness when it comes for a legal firm to manage their files and documents, digital documents. There is almost considering it as a very secured vault for all of those digitized documents, okay? And it's convenience, of course, because of the ability to access that document from any device using internet. Using that, of course, you have the facility to download these documents and also make them offline if you need it to be. But truly the convenience is now you're not stuck with a single device or by location to access these documents. Through the advent of technology, you could use mobile apps or any web-based solutions, whether it's a browser or otherwise, to access these files from anywhere that's connected to the internet. And from a cost-effective perspective, we continue to see the prices come down with regards to storage costs, as well as the different providers providing a tiered option for you to consume. So you don't have to go with a 1 terabyte plan right at the getway. You could start with as simple as a 15 gigabytes plan, which in many cases are free of charge. So if you actually have a Gmail account, I'm sure you're aware that you do get a Google Drive account that comes along with that. And Google Drive provides you with 15 gigabytes of free storage, file storage. Likewise, if you have the Microsoft email, whether that's Outlook or if you've got the suite itself, you get the OneDrive as part of the Microsoft suite, and they start you off with 5 gigabytes of free data. And then you have the option to upgrade depending on the usage, and you have full control of either upgrading or downgrading based on the needs of your firm. Okay? There's, of course, Dropbox and Box, and they also have their own tiered pricing models. And just reiterating on the convenience, the anytime, anywhere access using any device that's connected to the internet. Another convenience, and this is important, is the security aspect of it, the ability for you to access this securely. And the other component that's very important for a law firm is to ensure that you've got all these files and documents backed up. Of course, with using uLawPractice, you have all the data backed up on the cloud, and you do not have to worry about the data itself. But let's say you're worried about a very specific document, whether that's a scanned driver's license or whether it's a specific digitized document. Most of these cloud storage systems give you the facility to back up these documents at their own time, ensuring availability and accessibility as well. Okay, so something to keep in mind, you don't have to worry about having to back up these files, whether that's disaster recovery or whether it's just accessibility. Now, legal firms, of course, and we spoke about this briefly, you come across multiple different types of document formats that you may have to deal with. You're going to deal with TIFF files for faxes if you're getting digital faxes. You're going to deal with BMP files or JPEG files if you're going to be dealing with scanned driver's licenses from printers or scanners, or sometimes they may come out as PDF. You're going to be dealing with court form documents that are sometimes Word documents, like the small claims. You may actually have PDF documents like the landlord and tenant board or other areas of practice, court forms like family, criminal. You have your own internal documents that you generate out of uLaw, whether that's a retainer letter, an engagement letter, right? So there's different formats, and cloud-based document storage systems allow you to manage all of these different formats, giving you the convenience, of course, of being able to just retrieve those files as and when you need it. And what uLaw has truly done has taken that convenience, and through this integration with uLaw, has given you the convenience of accessing these files in the context of the matter from a uLaw perspective. Okay? And that's been our goal, so that you can start to use uLaw as almost your single source of truth, whether that's for data, compliance, but now also for documents. The only difference is that the digitized version of these documents reside in these cloud storage systems, but the context remains to still reside within uLaw. Okay? Of course, there's always two sides of the coin. So to kind of give you a perspective from, what are the disadvantages or certain things that you may want to keep in mind as you explore some of these systems, and pros and cons, if you will. Top aspect is that you certainly do need access to internet, especially with the integration with uLaw. We do rely upon the internet accessibility. You can always download these documents within Google Drive or OneDrive and store them locally in any device, like your phone, your iPad, Android tablets, your laptops. But when you have to integrate it with uLawPractice and retrieve it within the context of a matter, of course, you are going to need the internet. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. There is, of course, a certain limit to the storage, and though it's really not a big issue in today's context, something to still keep in mind that there's an incremental pricing plan or an increase in price as those storage limits increase. Okay? So again, these are very minimal in terms of their impact to your business. We're talking about $5 to $10 a month for almost a terabyte of data. So it's just not a great impact in terms of cost, but something that you still need to factor in as you budget your operational expenses. There's, of course, a perceived lack of control. It's not something that's residing in your own device. This is in the cloud. So when you talk about cloud, you're talking about a third-party ecosystem, a secure ecosystem, of course, but a third-party ecosystem that's hosting your data. So it's very important for you to consider the service level agreements that these different providers provide you with. There's a lot of documentation that you may have to review just to be clear of your conscience. And what we've done is, of course, we've integrated with the top vendors that, of course, bring a lot of prudence, security, and maturity in terms of how they deal with cloud storage. So there's a certain leap of faith that you may want to keep in mind when you consider some of these top providers in the marketplace. But yes, there is that perceived lack of control. It's something that we all get used to. In the context of today's day and age, you look at how banking has now become online. You see most of your retail transactions becoming online. We also having to deal with payments for our children for schools and all those things becoming online as well. So many things that surround and extend our day-to-day life has become this cloud-enabled ecosystem, and this is no exception to that. Okay. The one difference, of course, is you do have that added responsibility of storing client-related information, and that's why I think the security aspect becomes that much more important for you to keep in mind when you choose the right provider to store your documents on the cloud. We encourage you to, Google, for lack of a better term, or search up what these different providers can provide you access with. There are many more options. We're happy for uLaw users to get back to us as part of our community and share with us other storage systems that you're interested, that are mature in how they manage it. The security is top-notch, and the data is easily available at the convenience and the pricing plan that would meet the requirements, we believe, of our customers in this legal space. So please do bring that to our attention as we continue to do that research. But these are the top 4 providers, and they continue to remain the same. And when it comes to the integration itself, it's a very simple, straightforward integration between uLaw as well as the Google Drive or OneDrive. So right within the settings of uLaw, we ask you within the matter whether you want to connect with Google Drive or OneDrive. So we're going to talk about that as we demonstrate that capability. And once you've set that up and you've told us what your choice is, then we look to authorize and connect with that system. So of course you have a OneDrive. We want to connect with OneDrive, ensure that you give us the authority to authenticate OneDrive's username password so that we can connect uLaw with OneDrive or uLaw with Google Drive, right? Vice versa. That now gives the back and forth integration of movement of data and documents between uLaw's Matter screen and the actual storage within OneDrive or Google Drive. And once that connection has been made, then it just makes life simple for you to just drag and drop and organize all these documents within these cloud storage systems. Another important thing is if you want to ensure that it's further extended in terms of security, the convenience of uLaw is that you can download these documents that you generate out of uLaw into your local computer. You can actually download it into your local computer or device. You can encrypt it. So for example, in a Word document, you can easily password protect it, or you could use encrypting tools such as Boxcryptor or Cypherx that encrypts it, gives you a key that you can then use to decrypt it when you retrieve it. Or I would even recommend as simple as password protecting a document so that it's available in the cloud, and if there's a perceived lack of security or concern, you're still covered because people may get access to the file, but they still wouldn't be able to access the information within that file without getting your password. Right? So this is something that few of our clients actually do it every day. They password protect whether that's a PDF document or they password protect their Word document before uploading it into OneDrive or Google Drive. Okay, something to keep in mind that gives you that extra comfort of storing these documents. So why do this all? We spoke about this briefly, but the top two reasons why we integrated with this is convenience. That includes, a bit of cost effectiveness as well, and accountability. So when we talk about today's day and age legal professional, a big part of the accountability of you as a legal professional is to be able to respond back to your clients in a timely manner, right? Being able to provide them access to information, you being able to have access to your own set of information in a timely manner so that you are not only able to respond back in time, you're vigilant about what needs to happen next. So it's really the ease of use and convenience and the opportunity that we give you to be more vigilant and present yourself as today's legal professional as a very modern, tech-savvy, if you will, for lack of a better term, so that you have access to your data and information at your fingertips. So that's predominantly the two major reasons we did that. And that's what we hope that you would take forward through that integration itself. Okay? Again, a word from the sponsors, if you will. For those who don't know who we are, we're a cloud-based legal accounting practice management and business accounting software. We're Canadian. We're based out of Ottawa. And we explore for you to come check us out on our website at uLawPractice.com. We do offer a no obligation 30-day free trial sign-up that gives you the ability to play around with the software, get familiar with it, and really understand if it makes sense for you to use it. And we do our best to support and demonstrate the capabilities during that trial to leave you with enough information for you to make an informed decision. Okay? So it's about 20 minutes in and me talking quite a bit. I want to shift gears to actually demonstrate many of the things that we've just spoken about. And I'm going to utilize my ever so famous Roger Moore uLaw account. So this is a playground account that I use for a lot of my demonstrations. Predominantly in my previous demonstrations, I've showcased how we could use uLaw to manage clients, matters, how you can docket, disperse, how you can generate invoices. We speak about the legal compliance components, trust accounting, all of that good stuff. So today I'm going to shift gears to specifically focus upon the different types of documents that you may typically generate out of uLaw, and now showcase how you can pretty much have the digital copies of such documents, if you will, as an audit trail within the context of that matter, but have the repository itself be within Google Drive or OneDrive. Okay? So first thing first, if you could see right at the top, I've got, let me get my annotation mouse here, makes it easier. There you go. So here at the top right corner is our settings within any uLaw account. And when you click on it, you're presented with multiple tabs, and each of these tabs has its own little significance with regards to default settings that you can carry into the uLawPractice software, right? And I'll draw your attention to one such tab called the matter. For you to get started with the connection with the document storage, it's important for you to scroll down to the matter documents option. By default, this would be set to none. So if you're just starting off with uLaw, you've never used this integration with a cloud-based storage system, by default, this will be set to none. So what that means is when you actually log into any uLaw matter, or if you're accessing a new file, you're pretty much staying within the events where you're docketing, dispersing, invoicing. But if you notice within a matter, there's a tab called Documents. By default, it does tell you that you need to configure the product with the matter documents that you want to use. This is the default information. So if you've not connected with any cloud storage system, that's what's going to tell you, okay? That's what you should expect. Now let me go back to my settings, and this time around, let's say I want to get started. Let's start with OneDrive. Let's walk through a simple use case of utilizing and connecting with OneDrive. Of course, a prerequisite to this whole connection is that you do have a OneDrive account, right? That's a given. We hope that you've created that up front. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Microsoft OneDrive as the option. And very important that you do click the Save button, because that's now going to update your setting preferences. Okay, so once it says saving settings, and once that disappears, you can now move on back to the matter. So how did I get to this matter? I started off by creating a client, a fixed-use client by the name Rick Fernando. Okay, so I went into my mini CRM within uLaw, or my contacts database. I actually added a new client into my clients database. I just added the first name, last name, just a quick client intake. But let me just, for the purpose of the demo, say this is through a family referral. I can say this is at 456 Tree Avenue, out of Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And I'll mark that as a work address. You could put a phone, email, website. What's cool about the phone and email today is if you do download the uLaw app, whether it's iOS or Android, we allow you to docket the time spent on the phone with the client, calling them directly out of the uLaw app, as well as any emails that you may have sent out to clients can also be docketed right away as billable time, if you so choose to. Okay. So once I created the client, I've of course created a file or a matter. And I've created a simple file called a fence issue, which is a small claims matter in the GTA area. Of course, that's not true now because the person is in Kingston. So let me quickly change that. So now you get a peek into how I can change that as well. Okay, I'm going to chart of accounts, revenue accounts, legal work. Let me go into the small claims GTA. I'm going to remove that. Just call it small claims. Keep it simple, right? So it's as easy as that. Quick segue to kind of walk you through that feature. Let me get back to matters. Now you're going to see the area of practice that's now changed to small claims. So you never know what you get out of a uLaw webinar. We're talking about document management, and then we go into accounting, right? Okay. So now if I were to, again, I've already connected with my OneDrive, so that's why it's bringing up this no documents found. Otherwise, we would just click on the Authorize button, which will open up a pop-up screen that's going to ask you for the credentials for a OneDrive account. Just to kind of showcase what's under the hood, once you do make the connection with OneDrive, what we do at uLawPractice is we automatically create this folder called uLawPractice. Okay? By default, OneDrive comes with these two folders called Pictures and Documents. And once you made the connection with uLaw, we create another folder automatically. You don't have to do this yourself. We create it automatically called uLawPractice. And if I click on it, we create another folder called Matter. And when I click on that matter, it's going to list down all of the matters for which it has created subfolders. Okay? So if you look at it, we've not yet created one for RF, so let me go ahead and refresh this to make that connection. I can actually open OneDrive right from uLaw if I choose to once I've made the connection. So if I click on Open Drive, so this means either it's OneDrive or Google Drive, depending on whichever system you've connected it with. Okay? So same thing. Makes it simpler for you to. And there it is. So you've got RF 257759. So what we do is we take this unique file number. Of course, it's unique for each matter, right? So it keeps it unique. Cross-index that, because if you do have multiple matters for the same client, then we create unique file numbers for each of those matters for the same client, kind of keeping you compliant with Law Society's guidelines. So you've got this particular file number. So if I go ahead and create, let's say, another client, just to give you a feeler for this, let me go ahead and say add a new contact. And I'm going to say, here's Mr. Eric. Okay. And let's say I go ahead and create this new client. I'm going to create a matter for that client. So what's going to do is going to save the contact in the database for Eric Decker. It's going to ensure that it's created a custom contact record within the uLaw mini CRM, if you will. And then it's going to take you to the matter screen where you can add further information about that matter. Let's just give it an extra second there. Okay. So let's say this is not small claims. This is a family law matter because it's Eric. This is Steffi. And that's all you have to do. All you got to do is to create a matter, and uLaw would automatically generate the matter or file number for you. Because that's the file number that we use as the unique number to be utilized across cross-indexing within uLaw itself, as well as for integrations with OneDrive and Google Drive. Okay, now if I go into the document section of this particular file, see I have to ensure that it's connected. So I hit refresh. Once I see no documents found, now when I go in, you see this new file that you otherwise did not see here. Well, it's refresh here as well, but previously we only had 2 files. Now you've got the ED for Eric Decker. Okay, so that's the starting point. Once you find the status of no documents found, that means uLaw has made the connection with your OneDrive or Google Drive, and of course, there are no documents in that subfolder at this very minute. So let's go down a simple use case of, let's say you've got driver's license. Okay. You can pretty much take, let's say this for Eric Decker. You can go into a particular folder. You can just pretty much drag and drop that scanned document into that folder. And there's Mr. Bean's driver's license, right? The cool thing about the integration, now that the integration has been done, you don't have to even go into OneDrive once you've uploaded the documents. If you come in here and refresh the screen, you know that that particular driver license has already been scanned in. And you've got the created date, the modified date, the description if there's any, so you can change that. So that's the relevance between the integration between the 2 systems. You can change the description here, and it would automatically change the description there as well, right? You can download the document. You can continue to do that. So that's one example of it. And let's assume you do a retainer letter. And you do an elaborate retainer letter. Okay, and you do this in Word. You can drag and drop that into that same folder. And once it's been uploaded, if you go back into the context of that matter, you see this chronologically aligned. If you can sort this based on date. So now you know the first document that came in. So let's assume that you have also a larger law firm, and if your assistant or a certain client intake specialist are dealing with the initial component or the relationship with your client, you as the owner or the lawyer or the legal person who's dealing with this file can chronologically understand each and every document and its audit trail of what went in first. So you realize that, fantastic, you've got the driver's license first, you've of course got the retainer signed, and you can continue with the flow of things. You could say, let's go in and put that retainer, deposit into trust. You've got this new retainer, and let's say it's $1,000, and you've got that in check. You can scan that check if you like. Very important that you give them a signed receipt. So now uLaw is now going to allow you to now generate another format of a document. And this time it's going to be a PDF, right? So let me just download a ComOrange retainer receipt. I'm going to just drag and drop it right into a folder. And when I go into my documents, I'm going to find the retainer receipt. Let me sort this real quick. Right at the end, you can see in the additional fields, it also tells you what is the format of these documents. Okay, so I could even open these PDFs right from uLaw. I can click on it, and it's going to directly open that PDF document for me. Of course, this is now within the context of OneDrive. And there it is. So you have the digital copy of that particular receipt, and then you can scan this. Of course, you can, let me just expand this a little bit for you. There you go. So you've got all the information. So the retainer receipt for Eric was a Steffi, Eric Decker, right? How did you get the retainer? All the information is perfect. Even better is that you actually have a digital copy of it right under the context of it. What's important to keep in mind is that all of this is part of a discipline that we're hoping to build within the legal firm. Of course, it's not a big deal if you're going to do it, for one file in a month. But imagine the importance of that discipline if you're going to be dealing with 10s and 20s and 30s of files in a month. How important will this process and this discipline be if you've got that nailed to having each of those different digital documents available to you in an audit trail? And that by itself tells you a story. It tells you if you've missed any important aspects of touch points within that client life cycle, right? So just coming into documents and reviewing all of those different chronological touch points by itself gives you the confidence that you've done every step along the way to ensure that you've represented not only yourself, your brand, but you've provided a fantastic user experience to that customer. Okay? So you've got different types of formats. You've got a JPEG, you've got a PDF. Of course, you can open that Word document right from uLaw, and it's going to open up within the OneDrive as well. Okay? And one cool thing about OneDrive is, again, based on the license that you have, it will, of course, allow you to edit that document right within OneDrive as well. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what version I have. What's the best way to find out is to go ahead and do it. Well, there you go. I can actually do it. I can change this document, save it, and whatever is saved is automatically reflected within uLaw as well. Okay? What that really means is that you now have a single repository, a single source of truth, and the most updated version of any document residing both within OneDrive as well within the context of uLaw. Okay? So this is, of course, a very simple use case of first and foremost going into settings, ensuring that you've got it connected with the right system, whether it's OneDrive or Google Drive. We went through the process of creating a client, creating a matter for the client, and it's within the context of that matter is where you're going to be able to connect with OneDrive or Google Drive. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available to everyone in our YouTube channel as early as Monday next week. So most certainly you are able to review this webinar as a recorded webinar under our YouTube channel, and it would be by the date. So you should most certainly be able to review this webinar at a later time as well. Confirming that today's webinar was not accredited for any CPD, but it's truly to outline to you as to if you are current users of uLaw, how you can maximize the use of these document management tools and techniques. Okay. So you can continue to go down that path. You can continue to docket, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a couple of hours of dockets. I'm going to say I spent that hour. Maybe I'll make this a flat rate. So just go through the normal motion of doing whatever it takes to continue down the path of invoicing and docketing this particular client. Okay, so we did the retainer receipt. I'm going to go ahead and generate an invoice now so that you can do the trust transfers. And again, this is all built right within the cycle of your day-to-day tasks. So it tells you that you received $1,000, you've got about 400, which is your per hour billing plus the taxes, because this is a legal professional in Ontario, and you've got the 339. So that's the remaining balance in trust. Let's go ahead and generate the invoice. And this is another cool thing too. We see a lot of our clients do this. If they're all connected using Google Drive and they are all using Google Drive within the firm, or Gmail rather within the firm, the assistant would actually upload the pre-bill right into the context of that folder. So instead of emailing that pre-bill, which used to be another way of doing things, today what they do is they actually go ahead, upload the pre-bill, so the customer or the lawyer or the legal professional who owns the business is able to review it once and then approve it. And that's the context that they've done. Okay, so let me go ahead and generate the invoice. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have at this particular time. We'll be more than happy to answer if you have any specific questions based on everything that you've heard and seen the last 45 minutes. And there I have my invoice being generated. I can drag and drop it just like I did it for all the other documents. And here's that first invoice. I can view it right from my uLaw into OneDrive. Okay. If you've connected with any payment gateways, we can also include the link for payment. And if you want to go one step further, I've seen clients do this. I mean, they would be able to just share this particular PDF as a OneDrive feature. And this is a feature of OneDrive, of course. You could particularly share that one document with a third-party email, right? And you can give them access to just that link. So almost making it almost like a customer portal, if you will. So you can give them access to limited access to this entire folder. You can give them access, like say, view only to this particular folder or to a specific file. So if you want this invoice, again, instead of emailing it to your client, you can just give them access to it. He or she would then, of course, receive an email with the link to it, and then you get notified anytime they view the invoice, and they can click on the link within that invoice and then pay you for your service. Okay. Of course, in this context, you didn't have that in the invoice because there was a trust involved. You will see that link when I do this next action. So let me just say final closure. I'm going to add another 1 hour. And the same thing applies to any court form documents that you're generating for this particular file, right? That might actually be one of the more important documents that you may want to have a digital repository of. So after we've generated this invoice, the second invoice for this client, let's go ahead and generate that invoice. For purpose of time, I'll go ahead and change this to com orange. Let's skip the preview. And the cool thing about it is too, you can manage your own version history of these documents. With each of these documents come with the ability for you to manage the history, the version history of it. Right, so if I go ahead and do that, there it is. It tells you who modified it, when was the last time something was done to it. So if you have a multi-user firm, you pretty much know from the context of the documentation itself as to who's accessed it, who's modified it, if any, right? Okay. And I'll drag and drop that second invoice. We automatically capture the label based on the invoice number as well. So that's your invoice number. Now let me generate a court form. So I'm going to go in and say it's a family law form. Before I do that, let me do this. Go to parties. I'll add a party. I'll say respondent is Steffi Dill. Then we automatically understand that Eric is the applicant. And you can also add Steffi's representative or legal representation, who that person is. You could say it's the representative of the opponent. There's one Mr. Boris Becker. And now when you generate the court form, because that's yet another stage of the life cycle of this client, right? Like anything else, you can just go ahead and generate the family court form, and you can basically say it's a 8A courthouse was Kingston on Montreal Street. There's a court file number, you can put that in too. The date. And this becomes yet another document that you can just drag and drop. Right? So now if I go into my documents, here's a set of all the documents that we have. We've got the scanned driver's license that started off, followed by a retainer receipt, followed by a couple of invoices, and last but not least, you've got the court form. This is something that I like about OneDrive, is that it allows you to edit online. Okay? Actually, it converted it, so it made a mistake. So I'm going to, not a great option to convert using OneDrive probably. So I'm going to open that within my Word and then save it into Drive. So I probably shouldn't have converted it. Because what happens is that every Word file is formatted right within how the expectation of the particular court form is, right? So uLaw has done it in a specific way. So when you convert that into an online version, you kind of lose that format, if you will. There you go. That's the actual core form. Okay. So you've got all the information pre-populated. Here's Eric Dicker's information, Roger Moore. You've got the respondent, Mrs. Steffi Doe, her lawyer's information. And now you can save this into the cloud. You can say save as and save that into the cloud. Okay. So this is a simple life cycle of dealing with documents in the context of that particular matter for Eric Dicker. All related to the client, everything specific to this file, and that's why it's within the context of that matter. Now with a few more minutes left in this demo, let my shift gear here change this to a Google Drive perspective, just to show you a bit of that as well. And let me open up my Google Drive. So I'll close out the OneDrive, keep this a little bit more simplified. Okay, so just like OneDrive, you've got Google Drive as well. You've got the same uLawPractice, right? And you've got the concept. And this is where it integrates and is asking you which Google account do you want me to connect with, because it's now Google. And that's where you made the connection with Google Drive. And if I hit refresh, it comes back with no documents found. And this is where uLaw creates another folder under uLawPractice called Accounts. And you can have multiple folders. You can basically have a new folder under that for July 19. And this is where you can basically download documents. I guess I was trying to prove a point with it's connecting with the Accounts section for Google Drive as well. So let me just look at this one more time. I guess I was looking at transactions. Okay, so let's say within the same context of Eric and Steffi, you've got an expense that you've managed and you maintained. I'm going to show you how you can integrate that with even your phone, taking a picture, or even if you're intaking the client in a courthouse, you can connect that with your phone as well. So let me jump right into uLawPractice, the same matter. And the cool thing about the whole integration with Google Drive also is anytime that you upload these documents, and if you have multiple users utilizing Gmail within your firm, then the first name, last name of the ones who are contributing automatically shows up within the uLaw listing. So if it's Praveen, it's going to show that. If it's John, it's going to show John's information. So that seamless integration happens right within the context of Drive and uLaw. So for example, if you've got, let's say, the same HST document available right here, right? So I'm the same drag and drop. So one was OneDrive, and now I'm using Google Drive. The cool thing is, just like the description aspect of OneDrive, you pretty much have the descriptive action of Google Drive as well. So here's that HST document. You can see there's nothing in the description. This is where you can start to collaborate. For example, you can go into the details and add a description. You can say HST document uploaded by Jim. Okay? So let's say a special instruction was put on that particular file. If you refresh it, that same description gets carried over into uLaw. So it makes it easier when you're consuming that document. There's a context to this document. Okay? The other cool thing about the fact that it's connected with Google Drive, and the same thing applies to OneDrive as well, is you can do this right from your mobile phone. So if you've got the Drive app downloaded onto your iOS or your Android device, you could basically go in, take a picture. So basically, as we speak, I'm taking the picture of something that I have here in my office. It says I'm inclusive. I've just taken that picture and I've uploaded it into the Drive. Of course, you don't see it yet, but you should see it in any minute. So right now, you only see that PDF document. And you're going to see another scanned document, hopefully soon. There you go. Scanned document. Right. So this was a scanned document that I had just scanned right now in my office. Of course, not a great picture. I think I did a good job of it, but again, drives home the message and automatically is captured here as well. So this could apply to receipts. This can apply to scanned copies. It can apply to any image version of a document. It could be a photograph. It could be anything, right? So if you're doing accident benefits and if you're taking pictures of a particular scene, that can go into the file as well. If you're taking the scanning of the driver's license and the scanner's not working, and if you're taking a picture of it, that would work too. So wherever you can use the context of imaging and file management, there's a cool way for you to access all that from any device, including your mobile app that can be used for that. Okay? So once again, as we kind of come to an end, the main idea of today's webinar, right, was to kind of walk you through how uLaw integrated with cloud storage systems or document storage systems gives you a comprehensive and a very holistic experience, if you will, of managing not just your matters, but all of the digital documents that you generate for that particular file or matter, and how easy it is for you to connect with either Google Drive or OneDrive to be able to retrieve this information at any given time and store it within the context of the same file number. And you can choose whether it's Google Drive or OneDrive that you're storing that information in. Now, it clears and tells you the type of application data it is, the tells you last day when it's modified, who created it, any additional description, and who worked on it, so that you can access this file with the context of who did what within the document relevant to that client. Okay? So I'll pause at this stage to answer any specific questions that you may otherwise have. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available to you on our webinar YouTube channel. So you should go under youtube.com, go into uLawPractice, and look for the recent webinars. This would be provided with the title of today's date on it. So you should be able to retrieve it as early as Monday. So feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have with regards to today's webinar, and we'll be happy to answer them. One specific question we have was regarding how you connect these two systems. I guess we have another question. In terms of whether you need OneDrive or Google Drive for a better flow of documents, absolutely. In terms of connecting with uLaw, today we connect with these two systems. We'll continue to explore and continue to modify our system to connect with Dropbox and Box as well. So those have been a bit of a development exercise, but we're hoping to accomplish that pretty soon. But for now, yes, uLaw is connected with OneDrive and Google Drive, and you can choose one among these two, depending whichever is your choice, if you want to be able to store these documents in the cloud, as well as access them right within uLaw. And how you make that connection is right under Settings, under Matter. And the cool thing is if I do choose OneDrive again, right? So let's say I chose Microsoft OneDrive. You can switch between that if you like, but I would personally prefer you to choose one system and stick to it, because that makes it simpler for uLaw to understand which folder is being maintained where, right? Technically, what we do is we now connect with the OneDrive system, and if OneDrive already had this file number in it, it's going to retrieve all the documents with this folder number in OneDrive. And if the same folder is available in Google Drive, it would open up the documents that you had stored there. So typically that's what happens. And you would authorize us to access OneDrive account. So it's going to basically allow you to choose which one. Once it's made the connection, there it is. These are all the documents that we had generated early on today. So the main connection happens within our Settings and Matter. Okay. If there are any more questions, again, thank you very much for joining me today in today's webinar. Wish you have a fantastic weekend ahead, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next webinar next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.